Hi there folks, my name's Monroe and welcome to another little Microsoft Flight Simulator product review. And today we've got something a little bit different. We are having a look at not one but two airports today, courtesy of Orbx Simulations. Today we're going to be having a look at a twin pack of Washington State GA airports, the kind of airports that low and slow flyers like me are absolutely always in demanding and always love to see done in exquisite detail. Today we're going to be having a look at the recently released pack for Microsoft Flight Simulator of S43 and W16, or Harvey Field and Monroe First Air airports today. So this is an interesting pack, this one, because this pack was originally many moons ago released for the world of FSX and Prepared, and has now been revamped, rebooted, and now brought to life in the wonderful existence of a Microsoft Flight Simulator. So these are classic airports, and a pair of airports that I flew a lot out of back in the dim darks of the era of the legacy ESP sims, and serve as a great launching off point for anyone who's wanting to explore the wonderful scenery of Washington State and the Pacific Northwest. So today we're going to be having a look at these airports, and we're going to be checking them out, and we're going to be having a look to see how they've transitioned, how well they've transitioned over into the latest generation of sims. So we're going to be doing this one in a sort of normal / inverse way we're looking at this. We're going to be looking at it first off for the ground level. We're going to be starting at Harvey Field, and then after we've checked out Harvey Field from the ground level, we're going to go up into the sky. We're then going to do have a look at it from the air. Then we're going to have a short hop over to Monroe, and we're going to then sort of do the reverse. We're going to land our aircraft. We're going to have a look at it from the air, land our aircraft, and then drive around a bit on the ground, just to give ourselves a couple of different perspectives for this one before we give our final thoughts. Alright, so let's get ourselves underway and let's jump into our first airport of Harvey Field. And to do that, we're going to be driving this wonderful little baggage cart from Wombi Actual we're enlisting the help of Bob's Aero Services today in this wonderful little baggage cart from Wombi Actual to give us that ground perspective to see what it's like. So let's jump in and let's start driving. All right, I've reviewed a couple of airports now from this perspective, and I think it is actually a really cool perspective to actually be able to check it out and see what it is like from the ground level. So let's start our engine up there. There we go. Release our parking brake. Oh, okay. Well, apparently, yep. We're ready to go. All right, we don't really need the Garmin that's in there, but all right. Okay, let's get ourselves started. Okay, so it is a small GA field, so you do get the all the fields, and I do really like the detail, some of the detail that comes through here. So, all the signs that actually, give you some of the, samples of life at a small GA airport that has quite a wide range of expected aircraft to come through. Not only do you have your GA, but it's also a good one for helicopter ops as well. It is actually provides services to the local aeromedical services as well, so there is always something to look forward to there. Now, the airfield is home to a number of different air operators, including GA flights as well as skydiving services as well, and all the hangars have been brought to life as we would expect, just like they are in the real world, which is a hallmark of the original release back in the FSX and Prepared days, where we got to see all the hangars being in their correct places, and it is something that's notable because, as we all know, it's great seeing all the airports of the world sort of provided to us in a base level of detail by the sim. I mean, there's a lot of airports that they're in the world, and it is great to see so many of them covered, by default in the sim natively. But it is always nice to actually see the airports as they actually appear in the real world. So seeing the actual signs for Harvey Field, seeing the correct style of hangars in the correct location, is something that really does bring a sense of, belonging and home to where you're actually flying. So in that regard, I feel that, this add-on stays true to its previous history and actually does, still continue to give that. But at the same time, I sort of, well, yeah, you know what? No, like that is, that is still a solid thing. And from this perspective, we have the local, the local bar, the local cafe. So you actually do get to, see that, and it is, brought to life with the fact that, we do have, there is signs of life and a bustling, I wouldn't say metropolis, but a sense of life around here, which is an important thing, especially for smaller GA airports. Now, one of the things that I did notice, and I think I'll talk about this with a couple of other airport add-ons as well, is the PBR for the static aircraft, because many of the hangars and the shelters are populated with various static aircraft like we see here. The static aircraft just seem a little on the shiny side, and it's something that is not unique to this particular add-on. It is something that we have seen across many add-on airports. So it's not something that I can put out and say, oh, it's only wrong with this one, because it's not. It's something that is relatively across the board, and it's something that I think developers, I kind of would expect it by now that more developers would have noticed this and actually sort of maybe made moves to address that. It can be a challenge, I know, being a creator myself. It definitely has its own challenges, but yeah, I just feel that it is a little on the shiny side. But we've got our fuel tank operations there, exactly where we would expect to see them. And one of the factors, one of the interesting things about this particular airfield is the roofs of the various hangars all have different markings, and that is captured here just as it is in real life. So it is a nice thing to see that, again, it's that bringing it to life and taking those small details which really do help that. Funnily enough, this particular shed here is actually owned by a company that upholsters the interiors of aircraft and of recreational vehicles. So it is kind of cool to see that we've got some RVs actually parked here ready for their servicing as well. So there are quite a few details coming across here. You can tell that many of the textures here, they're not sort of procedural textures. These are all actually derived from actual photos, derived from the actual airport. So, and that again just adds that little bit more to that experience of feeling like you've actually at this airport. And I must admit that we are being a little bit picky with the fact that we are looking at it from the ground level, because it from the air, as we'll see a little later on, it looks very much the part. Though sometimes at ground level it can sort of stick out a little bit, but However, as we come along this taxiway here, this, as I go a little bit cross-country here, this gives a hint to one of my problems with this airport. That the ground imagery is, shall we say, I was about to say it's not bespoke, but that isn't necessarily absolutely correct. Like it is bespoke in the terms of that it is the correct imagery for the airport in question. However, they've literally left multiple aircraft burnt into the underlying photoreal scenery used underneath it without even attempting to hide it like we normally see with the MSFS AI, attempting to at least hide them, or even putting a static aircraft over the top of it. So that was something that was quite jarring for me when I sort of first looked at this airport, and I'll be honest, it continues to jar me every single time I see it. And unfortunately, it becomes even more obvious once we get into the sky. But we'll continue on our ground little sojourn for the moment here. In terms of other details, like the not only are the buildings details as they are, we've also got a lot of the signage. We saw some of it by the helicopter parking and operations area before. We also have, this kind of signage here, which is a hallmark of many of the developers that have worked with and done some great work with Orbx over the years. Telling us, various different signs that, as a virtual aviator or as a real life aviator, you'll need to know when operating out of this field, depending on when you're operating, being aware of parachute jumping activity, and your departure procedures for noise abatement and things like that. So these are really important little details that is great to see that have come across. But again, as I said, I kind of expected that because, again, this was a add-on from the old FSX days that is something that has just been, migrated over to Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I would be a bit disappointed if those details didn't come across as well. This is an interesting little add-on or addition to this one here as well. We even have a hot air balloonist with a family about to head up to check out the sights from a hot air balloon. We're not sure whether they're just arriving or just departing, but they are definitely there. So it is a nice little piece of scenery to actually see that added to here. And this part is always interesting for me because it's one of those things about America that absolutely fascinates me, particularly now that I've moved here, is the number of airports that, or air parks as they are often called here, where, you have someone's home where their garage has a car and then next to it is an aeroplane and their property sort of backs onto a actual, airstrip, and you can, am I taking the car today or am I taking the airplane? And that's just one of those things that is kind of cool and kind of awesome. We've got some other content that's been detailed a little bit outside the airport as well. We've got this, we've got the train stopped on the siding here, ready for unloading and shuffling around, as well as the car parks around the airport are also filled as well. But again, as we're going along here, we can see that this is another indication as we're driving along the road here that the I hadn't noticed that sign in detail before there. There you go. That the imagery that sits underneath this airport is, from what I can tell, is the default Microsoft imagery. And for me, that is a little on the disappointing side. And it's something that I honestly kind of expected. I'll be straight up honest, and I said I kind of expected better. Don't get me wrong, it's great seeing the buildings done in the great detail, especially the use of photoreal textures being applied to all the buildings, having the construction and the warehouses and the other operating sort of facilities outside the airport also done. But missing and having some of those, and a random power pole missing and power lines just sitting off in the ether. Yeah, it just feels like it's missing a couple of things. They've got close, they've done a great job. This is stuff that all I remember from the FSX and Prepared experience. But I feel that nothing was really done to overhaul it and update it to the new capabilities that the sim is now capable of. Things like not having an animated flag on the flagpole. It's a small thing, but it is something that I look at and go, I kind of would have expected that now, from given the fact that Microsoft Flight Simulator is now 3 years old, and this is a reimagination, an update from a previously released product. So I kind of feel there's a couple of things that just feel that this has a great start, but I just feel there's a couple of things missing. Well, now that we've had a look at things from ground level, let's step into our aircraft and let's have a look at, do a couple of circuits over the field, and then we'll head off onto our next airport. So let's quickly change out to something with wings. Alright, here we are in our Optica EA7, which is a great aircraft for some great views. So let's use this one to go flying. So let's see if I remember my startup procedure here. Okay, so let's go to battery master is on, fuel valves open, mixture full rich, throttle cracked. Okay, left tank selected. fuel pump on. Okay. Nav lights on. Okay. Engine started, purring like a nice little kitten. Okay, generators on, strobes, taxi lights on, pitot heat on, because the weather can change in all sorts of times here in the Pacific Northwest. Alright, control surfaces check. And we are good. Alright, let's start our taxi, and parking brake is released. Throttle easing forwards. So as we taxi, you can sort of see the photo reel, and again, as I said, you'll become a bit more clear as once we get airborne. That it just feels that it's kind of obvious that the photo reel hasn't really had a lot of attention made to it to clean it up, which from ground level is, you know, somewhat disconcerting, but once we get into the air, you'll see it's even more so. Like, even for example, like here as we're passing here on our right and shortly on our left as well, this, yeah, don't get me wrong, like the wind tee, the windsock, you know, they are all in the correct position, but then you've sort of got this lump of bright green grass, which is something that we are used to seeing in the default photo reel for sort of, you know, default airports, when they sort of just like throw that in there to hide something. And it's sort of like, I'm kind of expecting something more from a pay-where set of airports. So it's just one of those things where, you know, I see these great buildings in great detail. You know, I can see it's an airport's got to life. We've got people standing around the restaurant, the airport restaurant that we looked at before. You know, we've got the balloon, and then we've got these things which I'm sort of looking at going, even the default airports look like that. So it's an interesting juxtaposition I find myself in for this one. As I said, like, this is an airport I've operated out of quite, I'd say, you know, regular enough that I recognise, and I have a lot of good fond flying memories of flying out of this airport back in the old FSX days. So seeing those things with something, and honestly, maybe it's just, it might be something to do with I've been spoilt by some of the wonderful scenery that's been produced by Orbx and Burning Blue Designs and other great scenery developers, that I just somehow expected not this, if that makes sense. Alright, we just hold here briefly for runway 33, not seeing any other traffic. Okay. Flaps set to takeoff. Alright, run up check. Alright, mixture is full, rich, open, and ready to depart. That bit of that crosswind. This aircraft is somewhat susceptible to crosswinds. Subconsciously, I sort of almost went to hit the gear retraction. It's like, no, the gear on this, it better not retract because it's kind of fixed and, you know, welded. So, alright, let's get ourselves up, start a circuit here so we can have a look. Careful not to circle too tight, because that was sadly how some of these aircraft were lost in real life. Building up a bit of speed there. Alright, now we've got to climb some altitude, we can have a look here. So, we can start to see the photo reel that's laid underneath. And look, I compared this to the photo reel that sits on Bing Images at the moment, and essentially, and to me, it looks like it is the default photo reel scenery that is used by the sim in its current state. Which on one level, I have no problem with them using, but it's the fact that I pointed out before that there's those 3 aircraft burnt into the scenery, that there's been no attempt to hide them, or at the very least, put a static aircraft over the top of them. And again, as we fly over where the hangars are, where the sheds are, and even where the ramp is, you can see the outline of an aircraft still burnt onto the ramp. Like, there's been no attempt to try and hide that or use a custom material to actually hide that or anything like that. You can see that aircraft planform just clear as day, just burnt into the ramp, which is, I'm not gonna lie, really quite disappointing. And then we look around where the outdoor ramp was, where we actually started up. You can see the edges of the wing of an aircraft that's burnt into the scenery down there, with no attempt to hide it, no attempt to clean it up. And it's just little things like that, which I look at that, and look at that, just that green grass just sticking out like absolute dog's balls. I'm just going to drop some of that altitude a little bit, because I got a bit aggressive with that climb there when we were having a look at that. But this is where I just feel that this airport just lets me down a little bit. It really does. And which is, I've definitely come to expect a very high quality, a very high level of standards come out of the Orbx studios. So seeing stuff like that for me is, I'll be quite frankly, I think it's a little bit disappointing. Don't get me wrong, there are some great parts about this airport, and I think that the level of detail that went on the buildings themselves, and the fact that we have all the correct buildings in the correct locations and the correct runway and taxiway layout is very important, particularly for as I said, for GA flyers like myself who love exploring the Pacific Northwest. But it's these little details that just seem really, really just disappointing. They absolutely, this should not be a thing. I should not be able to pick a hole like that I can see that obviously. And I didn't even realize there's another one down there by where that greenery is, that awful green patch. There's another one there we can see through the photo reel. And again, barely an attempt to actually hide it with that grass. And that is, for me, super disappointing. Which is a shame, because as I said, the layouts, the runways undulating, taxiways are undulating, so I get the feeling of, when I'm exploring around there, I feel like I'm at the airport, but it's just those little details that just take the shine off this first airport that we're visiting here at Harvey Field. Well, now that we've had a look at at Harvey Field from the air, and we've seen that not only is the airport done, but we've sort of the industrial and the logging business and the bridge just there from the airport is also covered as well, just off to the north there. The bridge is also a unique POI, or just unique part of the scenery here that's included as part of this package. Let's now head on to our second part of this two-pack of airports that's available from Orbx, and let's have a look at that next airport as we head over to First Airfield. Alright, so here we are just entering over the top of Monroe First Airport, and this one is, from the aerial view, just definitely does not seem to be as affected as anywhere near as much as what we saw from S43 at Harvey. There doesn't appear to be any of that sort of, forced or hidden aircraft, or lack of having to, or having aircraft there that they, were supposed to hide and they didn't. Again, it still looks like they are using the current aerial imagery from Bing Maps that when I compared that to the imagery that I saw from the default sim and from, funnily enough, Bing Maps. But this one is it is very much a smaller airfield as well, and but it still has all the buildings in the right place as we would expect to see, and we can see that there's a bit of life there. Now, beyond the airport itself, it does also have a little bit of the surrounding industrial buildings, sort of this side of the highway here are also included, as well as the racetrack as well with a custom stadium. So the Evergreen State Fairgrounds race in this one as well. So for anybody who's wanting, maybe I should have brought the Airmobile out so we could have taken a zip around the track. Maybe I should have done that. But if you do want to go zipping around the track, the track is there and you can drive on it. I did drive around on the buggy before. I'm not going to do that in the review video though. But yeah, it is that is modeled, which is again a nice little touch. Again, that's more what I like to see from a lot of airport developers, with them taking the time to add things from outside the airport perimeter to give that bit of extra life to it as well. As we go over here, this is another one of those airports where there are a couple of houses sort of directly onto the airport as well, so you can there's only really one house that's actually directly on the airport that I'm assuming is some sort of caretaker's house, but you've got a couple of others that have got their custom models included as well. Alright, well, let's set this up for a landing on 2.5 given the prevailing winds, and then we'll taxi back, we'll park up, and then we'll borrow Bob's Aero Services again, borrow their buggy, and we'll check it out from ground level. Alright, let's see if I hopefully not make a complete mess of landing this aircraft. I know the Optica can be a little bit on the challenging side. So this is the Orbx Optica, Edge the Optica, by the way. It is not the Got Friends one. This is the Orbx one that is true to life for the real aircraft. So you have to be. She is a beautiful aeroplane, a great aeroplane to fly, particularly for doing observational stuff like this, but at the same time, she can be quite unforgiving. She can be very forgiving until she's not, at which point you have to really watch out. Alright, full flaps, back power, little bit left of center line, a little on the high side. I think I'm going to be a little fast for this. Nope. That's the thing about this, the Optica, is that it's got fairly good low speed handling characteristics. It has got these giant double slotted flaps that really help with your controllability at low speeds, and then once you're on the ground, it helps you dump that lift pretty damn quickly once you are on the ground, so minimal braking required in the end. So even though that landing was a little on the long side, we still managed to do it without doing anything silly like running off the runway. We see that you've got custom runway sort of lighting and marks here as well, sort of with the sort of unique style with their these cones and all these protective around the pillars for each light. And we'll just complete our turn here at the end of the runway, and we'll back taxi now. But otherwise, as we sort of taxi back, we can see that it's using default solid grass, which is absolutely fine. But again, it just feels like as I said, it's less of an issue, I think, with this airport, because as we were orbiting, you saw there was no obvious signs of any misplaced buildings or, you know, aircraft that weren't being hidden or anything like that. So, and it is definitely a custom runway poly with the name of Monroe actually sort of etched onto the runway itself. So I can't really sort of complain too much about that one for this one. And honestly, it was a bit of a sneak peek before when we do our driving around ground-based tour. This one has I have far less issues with this second airport here than I have with the first one. But all right, let's taxi on back and find somewhere appropriate to park up. And then we'll grab Bob's Aero Services for the rest of the tour. Looks like we've got some room to park between those two parked Cessnas there. Obviously, the Cessnas coming from the same library as they do. I do find them a little on the shiny side, which is the same commentary I made before when we were at Harvey Field. Yeah, I just find that the static aircraft are a little too shiny for my tastes and for what I've observed in real life. All right, we'll park up there. Parking brake engage. Mixture fuel cutoff. Shut down the fuel. Bring the mags back. Okay. Oh, fuel pump off. Pitot heat off. No. Yeah, nav lights, strobe lights, taxi lights. Oh, probably should have switched those lane lights while we're flying. Anyway, generator off and battery off. All right. Okay. Let's go out and let's grab ourselves if I can find what I did with the door handle. There it is. So let's go out and grab ourselves a buggy and let's go check out the rest of this airport. All right, so Bob has been persuaded to let us borrow one of his baggage carts again. So let's jump into it and let's get ourselves going. I can brake off. Okay. All right, so again, getting started here, probably just going by some of the hangars here in the end. We see extensive use of photoreal texturing again, complete with the meter boxes out the front. So that gives that sense of, because they are, literal, these are literally the textures that are, or the, exactly how these buildings look. So that is a great start and a great way to add that bit of realism. As we drive past the Turbo Goose here, which, hey, by the way, Big Radials, we would love to have a Turbo Goose at some point, just saying that would be kind of cool. Anyway, so yeah, we can see them here. It's got life here at the airport. Yeah, we've got various static aircraft. We can see that the ground poly doesn't have that. It doesn't feel like it's just, overlaid photoreal this time. It actually feels like it is actually proper ground poly that's been applied here. We've got an open hangar which which I believe you can spawn in or at least park in there, complete with the detritus that you would expect to see in the hangar. So all these little things here, and oh, look at this, we've even got we've got another cart that's hanging around here. Let's go check this one out. So it's little scenes and like this that for me really sort of help, bring an add-on like this to quite a bit of life. Seeing somebody, staring longingly off to the horizon as they prepare for their next flight. I mean, stuff like that it helps bring something like this to life. It really does. So I like seeing little tableaus like that. So as far as this side of the airport, yeah, I can't really complain other than the slightly shiny static aircraft. All the buildings are the actual buildings as they appear in real life and not just the default hangars as they appear. We've got this freight freight section here, complete with a couple of cool cars and FedEx delivering some important packages. and this is the one of the two entry roads here. And again, like we saw before over at Harvey Field, some of the buildings and some of the property outside the airport surrounds is also covered. Like we've got the Evergreen Equestrian Park here in all its beautiful glory. Also over there, a little sign letting you know, hey, your daddy tie-down fee is $5. That's very, very cheap, by the way. And little warning for anybody coming through here that, hey, this is an active runway. Don't cross the big yellow line. Leave that alone. Let's jump out of the road and let's head back into the other entrance of the airport here with the little important building there. So it's again custom building to actually bring to life the surrounds here, so we can go and see their home with the nice lights there, or we can enter the park itself here with its actual sign. So these are the things that I really like about this add-on, where it really first airfield, where it actually gives you that this is what separates it from default. You actually feel like you're there, and for me this one nails more than what Harvey Field does, with the fact that the buildings are right. Could the textures be a bit nicer? Sure, but we've got the life here. We've got Pilot's Coffee Shop there. We've got an RV stopped by. We've got a local fuel truck here. We'll just have to go a bit off-road for this one. We've got a temporary hangar here with an aircraft in it, being serviced. So I like seeing all these little details that help bring it to life. And then we've got examples of where the actual, use the research that went into this add-on by actually taking, research on site with signs really comes through and actually gives you that better experience at the airport. So it's interesting, actually, as I said, for me, I feel that first airfield, even though it's smaller, looks more well done than the primary airfield of Harvey Field, and that just simply comes down to, now that might be perhaps that's by accident rather than design, because as I said, they both seem to be using the similar sets of ground photoreal imagery below, but it didn't have the flaws in it that Harvey Field has. Alright, so now that we've seen both these airports from Blackfield, let's back up by the I don't know whether it's the manor house or not, but it seems to be whoever's got the really expensive house with a really expensive pool with the Beach 18 parked out the front. Let's park up there before we head off and give our final thoughts to this one, because we're just totally going to ignore the car park, because we're in a flight simulator, so we totally can. I think it almost looks more like a Lodestar, actually, that one. Anyway, let's knock up and we'll see if we can stop by for a cup of tea while we give our final thoughts for this one. Alrighty, so final thoughts about the twin pack of airports of Harvey Field and First Airport, or Monroe First Airport from Orbx Simulations. So the first thing that unfortunately is painfully obvious about this is that this is absolutely a port over from the previous FSX, the legacy ESP version, ported across into the new modern Microsoft Flight Simulator. That's the first thing. Now, both of these airports are cool, fun little GA airports. They are definitely not going to be appealing to those who might be more interested in airliners, but they are airports that serve an area that is always famous and has long been famous for not only real-world aviation enthusiasts, but also for virtual aviation enthusiasts as well, for exploring the Pacific Northwest. So as kicking off airports for sort of, that considerably fun journey, because I have done many a group flight and many an exploration over the years myself of exploring that part of the world. There's some absolutely amazing places you can find with it. These two airports would serve as great kicking off points for those. So it's a bit of a mixed feeling for this, because on the one hand, I feel that these airports are definitely far better than the default representations that we get from the base sim. Without a doubt, without any kind of question, they absolutely are. Unfortunately, however, it feels like they are not finished. It feels like they were just simply slapped into this sim, and just go, yeah, near enough is good enough, and they just called it a day. It's like, does it load up? Does it not crash the sim? Yes, okay, cool, it's done. It feels like there was no attempt to really take advantage of all the amazing advantages and all the amazing improvements that we've seen with MSFS over the legacy sims when this product was brought to life in this sim. And for me, it just feels like that's a little bit of a letdown, because I really want to recommend these airports, and in a way, look, I still will if you're looking for, an interesting, unusual GA airport that is definitely like its, that is brought to life like its real world counterpart. That it is, potentially a very good investment for you. But the flip side of that, unfortunately, however, is it feels like it is something that absolutely needs some more love and attention. It feels like this desperately needs, this desperately needs a patch or something, just a little bit of work, just to bring it over the edge, from being, yeah, it's pretty good, to, yeah, that's an airport that I really, really want to go out and buy, and I really, really want to fly from. Because it just feels that, especially with less so with Monroe First Airport, but definitely with Harvey Field Airport, it feels like that airport was just rushed out. And the lack of care, the lack of attention to detail when it comes to the photoreal imagery underneath, the ground poly underneath, it's really obvious. It's really, really obvious, especially, having, with other airports of, to be quite frankly, a similar price points coming from Burning Blue simulations and even from Orbx simulations themselves. It feels like they're doing themselves a disservice as well as the community for just missing those couple of things out. So the question is, do I recommend it? Well, look, I'm going to say, if this is an airport that you want to fly out of, then to be honest, you'll probably already have it, or it's already on your radar and you're already going to probably already buy it anyway. So who, like me, enjoys GA, low and slow flying, particularly in the Pacific Northwest, then this is an airport that's a definite maybe. For me, I feel this would be one that, as I said, it only needs a couple of minor things to be done to it. Clean up the ground, clean up the photoreal that's used underneath, redo the ground polys for the concrete, for the grass, tidy up where the grass is going, and make the static aircraft way less shiny, way less, metallic and way less shiny, then this would be an absolute winner. But right now, this would definitely, those things for me would pull that one back from a yes, you want this, to a if it's on sale, give it a good thought. But having said that, if they patch this, if they improve it, if they update all that, and address all those concerns that I sort of raised here and the points I've discussed, then this for me would be pretty much a no-brainer for doing any kind of GA or helicopter aviation, and you're looking for something somewhere a little bit different, a little bit more homely to operate out of in the Pacific Northwest, then this would be very much an airfield for you to look at. Well, that does round out this twin pack airport review of Harvey Field Airport and Monroe First Airport for Microsoft Flight Simulator, brought to us from Orbx Simulations. As we round out the video, I do want to say a huge thank you to the team over at Orbx Simulations for providing me with a review copy of this add-on today. And if you do want to add this one to your collection, you can pick this one up over at Orbx Direct, available now. And with that, folks, that does now round out this review. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, as always, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these videos and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by following me on Facebook and on Twitter and on Twitch. Just search Novawing24. All right, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.